Wow, as I prepare to record this, what a morning it has been. Um, we started this, and if memory is serving me right, this is number 5 out of this message. I didn't think at the beginning of it that it was going to take that long, but the Lord has done different things with it. We've dealt with 14 points in this message of the beauty of holiness. I truly believe in my heart, and it grieves me so much as a holiness preacher, that the holiness message has been shanghaied and turned into something that it never was. And I believe that the holiness lifestyle is the best lifestyle that you can ever live. It will give you a freedom in your life. It is not about bondage. It is not about legalism. It is not about self-righteousness. But so often that is what it is made out to be. I hope that as we have looked at these points, that maybe it has challenged your thinking in looking at these areas. We've got 2 more, number 15 and number 16, and we will deal with those today. And then I believe my plan is to then do a video using the notes that we just used when I was in Grinnell and Oskaloosa, Iowa. That would have been last Sunday, as this is being preached onto video. Number 15 in the beauty of holiness, it enriches the home. The beauty of holiness and living in the beauty of holiness enriches the home. The home and the family is under severe attack. There's good reason for that. The devil has not lost his pathway. The devil knows that every major society throughout history has crumbled when their families crumbled. The devil has gone after Israel and will continue to go after Israel throughout the remainder of earthly time. I believe that he has gone after the United States of America as well. And he knows, again, let me say it to you, that every major society throughout history has crumbled when her families has crumbled. There is cheating and pornography and alcohol and just pure neglect of families. It grieves me, as I said here before this camera, because I am a pastor, and people say, well, you're condemning. And it's like, no, it has nothing to do with condemnation, because condemnation doesn't do anything. It doesn't do any good to try to change things. It's with a broken heart that I have read estimates that 80% of the ministers in America have looked at pornography on Friday and Saturday night before they get up on Sunday morning to preach. It is a pandemic of major proportions of what is going on. I've also been told that ministers have the second highest divorce rate of any other profession. The only profession that is higher is police officers. And that is because the devil attacks in these things, because he knows if he can crumble the family, he will crumble the church. He will crumble the society. And so when we are operating in the beauty of holiness, the beauty of holiness should enrich our home. It should enrich our relationships with our spouses. It should enrich our relationships with our children. And we shouldn't just stand up behind a pulpit and tell people about holiness and then go live our lives in our families totally outside of what it is that we should be doing. 1 Timothy 5:8. But if any provide not for his own, and especially for those of his own house, he has denied the faith and is worse than an infidel. Hey, how often do you hear us preachers use that verse for our text? But if any provide not for his own, and especially for those of his own house, he hath denied the faith and is worse than an infidel. When I was young in the ministry, I worked loads of hours. We were on radio and we were on television and we were sending out newsletters and we were sending out CDs and it was a massive job. Most people had no idea what was involved in carrying out the ministry. There was times that I would work from 6 in the morning till 3 the next morning. Go home and have troubled sleep and get up the next few hours and go back at it again because we were doing just massive things happening the night before my family ended in the physical realm. I was getting ready to go to Arizona and then to Illinois. I was going to be gone for several weeks. And I was instead of spending the time with my family the way that I should have been doing, I was trying to put together these CD packages that I could take with me on the road doing the revivals. And so I had to leave at 3 o'clock in the morning, and it was 1 o'clock in the morning. I was still trying to put those things together. You can be so wrapped up in doing what you think is the right thing to do, and you can desert your family in the middle of that. And the devil knows when the family crumbles, everything else will follow behind it. Maybe that's why the rules of being a bishop and an elder is that you are to take care of your household. And to my fellow ministers that might be watching this video, you may be convincing yourself that you are doing the right thing by being absolutely wrapped up in the ministry that you are doing. The church will turn its back on you. The elders that you are serving will spit in your face. And you will desert your family trying to please them. And you'll find yourself, let me tell you something, I'm talking from my heart right now. You will find yourself all alone. Because you will have spent all of your time trying to please those institutions and neglect your family. I remember I had went to a seminar. I'm not going to mention where I was, but I will say that I was in Texas. I'll just leave it at that. And I remember the minister that was teaching the session on time management. And he said, you schedule time for your family just like you do for counseling and for the hospital visits and all of that. You schedule time for your family with that same priority. And if you don't worry about it, because you won't have a family to schedule time for. Prophetic in my life. I want you to understand, folks, this is something that's very dear to my heart. I remember a man sitting in my office. He was a pastor's son. His dad had been going to our church for quite some time. He wasn't pastoring anymore. He had retired out of the ministry. And this man was in my office sitting, and he said, I just wish, just once, that my dad would have told me that he loved me. Just once. He never once told me that he loved me. He was pastoring and leading all of these churches, and he never once told me that he loved me. You think that son was impressed with how much Bible his dad knew, how much his dad knew about theology, or the God that his dad claimed that he followed? The devil knows if he destroys the family, he will destroy everything else around it. I continue to be a minister, but I have never since been the minister that I once was. I hope that you are hearing my heart. Don't let the devil convince you. Don't let the devil convince you that it doesn't matter. Understand that the devil knows if he can destroy your family, he will destroy everything that you have, your witness, your ministry, your thriving. And so take it to heart and realize if you want to preach holiness, then you better realize your family is very, very important in that. And if you don't take care of the ones of your own household, you deny the faith, and you are worse than an infidel. Number 16. It exalts the one who calls us to a life of holiness. Holiness does not exalt me. Holiness exalts him. If my holiness is about impressing you about me, I have no holiness at all. It's phony. It's fake. It's deceiving. If my holiness is bringing an impressiveness to you about me, because holiness exalts the one who calls us to a life of holiness. Jesus said, if I be lifted up, I will draw all men unto me. Yes, he was talking about the cross. He was talking about if I'm lifted up on the cross, that is going to draw all men to myself. But that also has a dual meaning behind it, because if we exalt Jesus Christ, if we want to reach people, it's not about becoming some kind of a religious Christian superstar. We've got way too much superstardom in the ministry these days, and we don't need any more superstars. We need people that is out lifting up Jesus Christ. If you want to reach people, quit trying to be a superstar and become a person that lifts up Jesus. It isn't about me. It's about him. And he's the one that is exalted, not me. I had a dream years ago. It was not a good dream. I was in the middle of this ministry that I've been talking about that was just exploding out of my control. And I had a dream. I was standing in front of a group of people, and this young man said to me, "You sold us out. We can't trust you anymore." When I woke up, I put together a series of messages called Getting Back to the Basics. We need to quit glamorizing people, including me, that should not be glamorized. It's not about lifting up other people. I worked at a Christian radio station. If I called off the name of the ministry that owned it and ran it, you would know them immediately. And the instructions that we were given, our job as on-air announcers for this Christian radio station was to lift up this person, this leader of the ministry. It was his job to lift up Jesus Christ. The next week, I was no longer an on-air announcer for that radio station. Do I have the same standard today? I ask myself that question all of the time. Our jobs as Christians, let me tell you, for those that I am your pastor, and I'm very honored that goes way outside of my church walls, and there's numerous people that call me their pastor, and I'm very honored by that. Don't take me wrong in what I'm saying. If I carry that role for you, I'm very honored for carrying that role for you. Thank you for letting me be a part of your life. Thank you that you watch these videos. Thank you that you read our writings. I appreciate that very, very much. I'm glad that I get to be an inspiration to you. But don't ever, ever, ever get this confused. You don't lift me up as your pastor so that I can lift up Jesus Christ to others. You lift up Jesus Christ and Him alone. He is the only one that is to be exalted. Sometimes we ministers spend way too much time focusing on ourselves. And I have told that story before. It was I went through a stretch there. And my daughter and I like to go to Chinese restaurants. And in the Chinese restaurants, they have fortune cookies that they give you at the end of your meal. And normally these fortune cookies are much like the so-called prophecies from the mercenary prophets these days, where they just tell you what you want to hear, make you feel better about yourself. I went through a stretch where the fortune cookies wasn't doing that. I know that there's nothing about fortune cookies that have, but the one I kept for a long time, that little slip of paper, and I have copied it in messages because I thought, wow, what a challenge. It said this: perhaps you've been focusing too much on yourself. If you're focused on you, I don't care how you're dressing, I don't care how you're acting, I don't care what you're saying, I don't care where you're going, I don't care all of the outward appearances that you might have. If you are focused on yourself, you are not holy. Wow, boy, is that one ever going to get me in trouble. Let me say it to you again, just so we're clear. If you are focused on yourself and your own righteousness, you are not holy. Because holiness calls my heart to God. I say again, I know I said that before. I don't want to get off on that. But I say again, I am a man of unclean lips. Oh God, touch the coal. I need you. I always need you. I am convinced one of Satan's greatest weapons that he uses is making it about us and what we do instead of God and what He does. And that will immediately bring failure. My ministry has changed so much in just the last few years. And God began this with the idea of what John the Baptist said when he said, I must decrease that He may increase. And I've told the story before. It would be humorous if it wasn't so scary, of how that was such an easy thing for me to accept. I must decrease. I want to decrease, Lord. I want it to be about You. I want it to all be about You. Oh, how intellectually easy that was to accept. God wasn't interested in the intellectual. God was going to revolutionize my world as a minister. See, I spent all of those years, and that's what we're taught as pastors and ministers. We're taught that I was a big revivalist. Churches all over the country called me in to do revival. And I would ride into town with my messages all packed up and ready, and my CDs and T-shirts and books and all of these things, and come in, and I was bringing the messages. It was my job to fix the people in the church. The same way with counseling. Counseling was about them coming to me and me fixing their issues. I would stay up literally all night long, talking to them, trying to fix them. I've come to the very, very strong realization I can't fix anything. I now tell people that come to me for counseling, and my counseling is quite different than what it used to be before. I tell people very straightforward, if you are coming to me to fix your issues, I'm not interested in being that person. I'm not interested in trying to do this for you or with you. Let's recognize very clearly and straightforwardly, I'm not the fixer. Jesus Christ is the fixer. My job as counselor is to facilitate you to Him. My job as a preacher is not to lift myself up and tell you how great I am. My job as a preacher is to facilitate you to Jesus Christ, who has your answer. My job as an accountability partner. How many things do you want me to talk about in this? Because I can go through all of them within ministry. It revolutionized, because I don't any longer carry that responsibility on my shoulders. Jesus says my yoke is easy and my burden is light. And I kept asking Him, so why is the yoke so hard on me? Why do I struggle so much in this? And finally, the bird brain inside of this head, finally the Lord got the light to come on and say, the reason that the yoke is so heavy to you is because you don't have on the right yoke. You're attached to the ministry instead of being attached to me. And so you're being pulled in all of these directions of, I need to be doing this, and I need to be doing that, and I need to be accomplishing this, and I need to be accomplishing that. And even when we would have services where the altars was lined, I would go back to my room and sit on the bed and say, I can't do this anymore. because I was carrying things on my shoulders. It is one of the greatest weapons that the devil uses, is to put it on us. I've equated that in messages before. We are the sowers of the seed. You look at that story. You will never, ever in that story, let me tell you, go read it in Matthew, where Jesus gives the parable of the sower of the seed. And the sower of the seed never, ever stops in that story to look at where his seed is falling. It isn't his responsibility. It's not his job to worry about the seed. It's just his job to sow it. Just sow it. And God said in Isaiah, "My word will not return void unto me. It will accomplish what I sent it out to do." Our jobs as Christians is to exalt Jesus Christ. If my testimony brings people to me, it is not a testimony. It is a story to bring them to me. Everything that I do and say, every message that I preach, everything that I write, every video that we do, it is my goal, it is my prayer, it is my desire that it exalts the one that calls us to be holy. Be ye holy, for your Father in heaven is holy. How do I do what I do? Because he gives the ability. Lord, I am a man of unclean lips. Here I am, send me. And he actually does it. I was talking to a guy this morning just before I recorded this video, and I said, you know, I've gotten in trouble from people before of saying this, but let me tell you, the Lord doesn't need me at all. He doesn't need me for ministry. Ministry, when I take in my last breath and lay down my head in death, ministry will not be slowed down one little bit from what God is doing. He doesn't need me to accomplish anything. It's just cool that he lets me play along. He says, Mike, I'm going to use you to touch this person's life. Let me tell you something, so you know I'm not exalting myself. He's saying the same thing to you. He wants to use you to touch your neighbor's life, your children's life, your co-worker's life, your schoolmate's life. He wants to use you to change your church. He wants to use you. But if you are exalting yourself and lifting yourself up, you are not holy. Because holiness in its essence makes me raise up the one that calls me to be holy. And if I can't say anything else to you as I get ready to close out these 5 points of message that we have done, it is Jesus Christ that I need and you need. And it is Jesus Christ that needs to be exalted. Because the moment you put me on a pedestal, you're going to realize I fall short. So don't put people up on a pedestal. Don't put your pastor up on a pedestal. Support your pastor. Pray for your pastor. Be behind your pastor. But don't put them up on a pedestal. Because the moment that we exalt ourselves or others, we cease to be holy. So be assured, my only desire, my only wish, my only want in all of this, I must decrease, that he may increase. and I exalt him. For he is King of kings, Lord of lords, the creator of the universe, Almighty God, the everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. He is all in all. And praise his name in the beauty of holiness. He lets me play along. He wants to let you play along too. Would you make the decision today to just let him? In the beauty of holiness, just let him use you. God bless you. Thank you for watching. I hope that you have been ministered to. We'll see what God leads in the next video.